Saturday morning, that's right. Welcome to JW's Radio. I thank you for tuning in. Thank you for spending your Saturday morning right here on JW's Radio, on the Bat Check JW channel. Okay, we had a nice a big video this week. Did really well in views. Is the Revolver Gun Prices. Pretty cool. It was actually a somebody had requested I do that. In response to the 1911 pistol prices or gun prices. Did that. That was a video that, honestly, we did that just kind of, it was an idea that, like a notion that just came like right there on the spot. Like one night we were just like, hey, you know, that's a good idea. We should talk about the prices. And we just threw that video together. We had no idea that it was going to get the attention that it did. And that kind of led to a few comments, I think it was, saying, hey, why don't you do one on revolvers? So it took us a little while to throw it out together, but we did. Hopefully you got your coffee, because I got mine. Okay, the VOG has been pretty bad this last week on the island. So the VOG is just, usually it doesn't affect me too much, but I must say it has been... It definitely, you can feel it out here now. I can, at least I can. I know a lot of other people are real sensitive to it, but I've definitely been getting affected. It feels like you're getting a cold, but it's not really that. It's just the fog. So, all right, we have some shout outs to get. Here we have the Arizona Ghost Riders. He is tuned in. He's got a really cool channel about the Wild West and things, and also adding a little bit of humor, so please check him out. Really cool. The Gunfighter 45 ACP, JSS Sauce, hope I'm saying that right. Mr. Holster, man, that guy, Mr. Holster, the coolest cowboy on YouTube. Edward Petty, Joe P, Varen, and James Drennan, Bob Hartman, EB Saint 454 Packer, Scott F, Gun Enthusiast. He's been doing really good with his dogs. He's got a couple of German Shepherds, his new one, Ranger, and he's been documenting the growth. It was really a neat thing to see, because I used to actually have a Husky. I think she was a Husky part German Shepherd years ago. His video is really neat because he literally documented from the pup to almost full grown. It's amazing how much the dog has grown, and he's documented the entire thing, which is really neat. And we also had Pistol Pete. He's a funny guy. I always like Pistol Pete. All right. So we got some cool stuff to talk about there. And but yes, let's talk a little bit about Revolver Gun Prices, because Revolver Gun Prices is just one of those things where I get a lot, even my friends too, they always ask me, like, how did you must have spent a lot of money on revolvers, because you have quite a few, collectible ones. Well, yes, I did spend a lot of money, but not as much as you think, because when I started buying them, when I started collecting the guns, it's been probably, 6-7 years now or so. See, that's what I was doing. I wasn't purchasing guns for, say, like, not like the what Glocks, and like, for instance, while my friend was going and buying a Glock 19, ironically, I was going and buying a Smith & Wesson Model 19. A little different. So, just something like that. While I actually spent less on my Model 19 than he spent on his Model 19. I think he spent $650 on his, or close to it after tax and everything out here. Is a Gen 4 Glock, and I think I spent about five something on my Smith & Wesson Model 19. So it just I bought things that they were a different price. Now, I mean, I had no idea that they were going to grow up and and the kind of value that they have within the short time. I mean, I figured they might be, even at the time when I was buying them, I felt they were expensive, but I knew that's what I wanted. So, spending like $400 on a Colt Detective Special Now, I mean, I think that gun's near $1,000. So, I mean, you know, I remember even when I bought that, going to the friend of mine that he's a gun dealer, and he said, you know, that's going to be an expensive gun. He actually wound up he had one, but he didn't have the one I wanted, and so I went on Gunbroker to find that one that I wanted. And he warned me ahead of time. He said, you know, it's going to be very expensive. Well, I was lucky enough to find one that was like $400. Even he was shocked. And I bought it. And it was in good shape. And he even said, wow, that's actually in really good shape. Man, that VOG is, that's it. It's getting to me. And it's, you know, during the cold season, right? So, anyway, that's what, so that's what I was kind of doing. I was always going out and, you know, my very first gun, my very first gun in Hawaii, because I used to live in Colorado. But my very first gun I bought in Hawaii, believe it or not, was a Smith & Wesson revolver. It was a Model 10-5 6-shot snubby K-frame. You guys have seen that if you've been around the channel long enough. You've seen that a few times. That is the first gun I ever bought in this state, on my own, going through all the paperwork by myself, and not, you know, I mean, of course, having a friend of mine, a gun dealer, help me through all the proper permitting process and everything that the state of Hawaii requires. But yeah, I did all of it and got it, and, you know, even though I didn't understand it, because in Colorado it was different, you know, back when I was coming from Colorado, when you buy a gun over there, it's just, you know, you go in the shop, they do the NICS check, and you fill out a form, and there's your gun. Bye. So it was a little different for me here, when it was like, oh no, you have to do this, you have to do that. So I was kind of like, wow, okay, so when do I actually get my gun? But yes, that was and I still have it. I always will. Just like I still have the very first pistol I ever bought. The Walther PP police pistol, 32 caliber. Why? Because of Dr. No. Dr. No, Sean Connery, even though they call it a PPK, if you look at it carefully, it's like it's a little different. The muzzle and the slide tapers out a little bit more. For as what my research was later on, I mean, when I saw that gun in the shop, I bought it just on basically because of the looks. I said, you know what, that's the one they have in Dr. No. That's the one I've always wanted. I have to have it, so I bought it. And lo and behold, it's you know, it's an old school Walther But yeah, bought it, went right up the road and shot it that day. Boy, those are the days living in that state. So at that time. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of what I was doing. I was always buying always looking for revolvers, because that was just my thing. I grew up. For me, I grew up with Dirty Harry, The French Connection, and you know, McHugh with John Wayne, and just movies like that, the Western movies. So it just, that revolvers were king to me. That's what I remember growing up. That's you know, when I saw John Wayne pop out with his 6-gun, that's what I remember. You know, hammer going back, cylinder turning. And then also with cowboy guns, there was something about when you open that loading gate and you start dumping out the shells, those big 45 Colt shells coming out of there. Yeah, there is something super romantic about that gun and that process right there. I'm telling you, if you have not experienced that, borrow one, rent one, do it, because I think it's amazing. It definitely, I had no idea early on when I got into it, and once I did, boy, I said, man, this is cool, this is awesome. So, and speaking of all that stuff, let's get to the John Wayne movie of this week, El Dorado. Last week we talked about Rio Bravo. El Dorado is the next in line, because these two are, ironically now, they're directed by the same guy. I do believe Howard Hawks directed both of them. And this is pretty much a remake of Rio Bravo. And that's why the storyline is very, very similar. But in this, it's got enough differences to separate the two. El Dorado, pretty much once again, I mean, these guys hold up in the little jail, the little sheriff's office, and hunker down and try to defend themselves. Well, what makes this one really awesome to me is because, well, obviously it's very much like Rio Bravo, where you have the town and the tension of the Duke and them, and you have Bull, the other guy, and of course Robert Mitchum playing the drunk, and then you have Mississippi, Alan Badillion Drahern, and they says, Lord Almighty. He says, just call him Mississippi. So the fella they can't shoot, so he gets a hog leg, double-barreled sawed-off shotgun side by side, but they hunker down in the little cell and wait for the inevitable gunfight in the end. Just something about that. But this is the one that what's different for me is this. He carries his yellow-handled, ivory-gripped 45 or 4440 pistol in this. That is the iconic pistol that John Wayne has, right? The iconic 44 or the what am I talking about? The aged yellow grips like these right here. That's what's on his pistol. So that's why I really like it. And the first movie I ever noticed that he showed up with those grips was The Sons of Katie Elder. That was the first time I noticed that he had yellow ivory grips, yellow style ivory grips on his 6-gun. Now the story goes is that they were made of Catalin, which is a form of Bakelite, and he liked them so much that he tea stained them himself. He went and tea stained them to yellow them up, make them look aged, and so. And it's really interesting is all the way back in some of his black and white movies, his black and white westerns, he has some ivory looking grips on those too. So I don't know, but this is definitely one of my favorites. It's just super cool. I can't tell you, man. You have to watch it to know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, if you have watched it, then you know it's a cool movie. It's just one of those things, and it even has this quote right here on the back. He says, "I'm paid to risk my neck, and I'll decide where and when I'll do it. This isn't it." That's when he's talking to what's the bad guy's name? See, now I'm drawing a blank. Does it say here on the back? No. He goes to work for that guy, and that he winds up finding out through his buddy Robert Mitchum that fella's up to no good. So he says that's why he first meets up with John Wayne with his rifle drawn, and he says, "What's with the gun?" And he says, "That's until I find out what side you're on, Cole." And so they finally settle that out, right? And that's the other line. Christopher George tells him in the bar. He says, "Hold on," because the guy is about to. Mississippi had already drawn and threw his knife at one guy, dropped him, and the other guy's ready to draw on the Duke. And he says, "Hold on, Mill." He says, "There's only three people with his kind of speed. One's dead, the other's me, and Cole Thornton." And John Wayne replies. He says, "There's a fourth." And he says, "Which one are you?" And he says, "I'm Thornton." And Christopher George looks at the guy. He says, "Aren't you glad you didn't try?" So anyway, that's a really cool scene. So, all right, talk about some guns here. And this is, I'm getting around to it. Forgive me, you guys. I'm trying to do a video on it, get this thing out. But it's the Ruger Security 6. We brought this out on a radio show before. It's really neat. This one's, I believe, what is this? This is almost like a 5-inch barrel, 5 or 6-inch barrel, I think. It's kind of an odd size barrel length. Usually I'm used to like the 4, the 6, the 8. Who has an 8? Man. It's 357 Magnum. This thing looks a lot like a Smith & Wesson, but it's a Ruger. It's a vintage Ruger. It's got really neat wood grips. Something different about them is on the bottom here they put a little cutout. That's because you can see the serial number there on the bottom. Their release is different. You push it and that pops the cylinder out. 6-shot 357 Magnum, kind of that medium frame, that nice size frame. Counterclockwise on the cylinder. Transfer bar system, or not transfer bar. Yeah, transfer bar. Trying to figure out the. You can tell I don't own too many Rugers, right? This one's on loan. I do have to get the video out and get it back to the fella. So, yeah, neat, very neat. Because you know what? This reminds me so much of a Smith & Wesson Model 19. Speaking of, we were talking about a Model 19. Here it is, Smith & Wesson Model 19, 6-shot 357 Magnum, K-frame, 4-inch barrel, like the one Bill Jordan was talking about. This was the gun of choice for a lot of those state troopers and guys. You know, I mean, in a sense, you know, this was the Glock of the day. And for me, it still is. It's a nice, strong gun. I love this thing. It looks great. It's such a hefty, and I love those grips. Something about those grips, man. I tell you, the way it looks on this gun. I got a Model 15 with bigger grips on it, but it doesn't quite match it. But I left them on there because that's what my father had on there. That's his gun. But yeah, really thick barrel. Everything on this. It's such a beautiful gun. I like this thing. This is a pin barrel and recessed cylinder model. So they pinned the barrel here and they countersunk the cylinders. So when you put a round in there, it sits flush. They quit doing that. Just cost on time and extra steps that really wasn't necessary. But yeah, these two look very, very similar. I've mentioned that before in one of these radio shows. So. Yeah, I figured we'd break those out and show them to you and give you a little teaser of I gotta do a video with them and we could show them side by side in an HD close-up video that we'd like to do here. Give you guys a nice look at the thing before we send it back to the person that owns it. All right. So yes, you know, these grips here, going back to John Wayne, I started making my own, and that's what the results are. You guys, there's a few videos on this channel on these grips, making them, custom making the aged yellow look and everything. I've always been a creator. I've always been somebody that creates stuff, even long before guns. I was a musician. I was a musician for many, many years, played with a band. You know, the one thing I learned is it's definitely you have to love it, and I definitely did. You have to love it because you ain't gonna make any money off of it. At least we didn't. So so I've always, you know, that's putting together stuff, creating stuff has always been something that I've loved. I love doing it. So when I had the idea to create my own grips after the horrible incident of me breaking the originals off a gun, I had this notion. I said, you know, what if I made them and poured them and made my own castings and of it? And there were you know, a lot of people kind of went, I don't know, man, that sounds a little crazy. I don't think you can do that. Well, you know, I'm glad that they told me that, because that drove me to really wanting to do it. And I did. I wound up completing them, and I've actually sold a few. And you know, so yeah, Arizona Ghost Riders, in fact, has a set. So does Bob there. But all right, so I'm gonna get out of here, and that's gonna be it. Saturday morning. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, everybody. So you can tune in next week. Hopefully you have a safe holidays. Thanksgiving is on the way. Try not to eat too much.